When the state is ready, they can call their first witness.
Thank you, Judge. The state calls Gali Basu.
Can we just give the state Bible there? Okay. Ma'am, can you just bring the Bible over in front of you? You can put it on your stand there. You put your left hand on the Bible, raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? You have to speak up so we can all hear. Okay. I want you to sit down, get comfortable. You comfortable? Okay. State your full name for the record and spell your last name, please.
Shakuntala Basu, last name B as in Bob, A-S-U.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. If you don't mind, you have to keep your voice up. Juror number 16 in the back over there, he's got to hear everything that you're saying. So you got to make sure that we're nice and clear. Prosecutor, when you're ready.
Thank you, Judge. Good morning, Ms. Basu. Ms. Basu, could you tell us where you worked back in 2018?
Doris Duke Foundation.
Okay, can you tell us what does the Doris Duke Foundation do?
It's a non-profit private foundation that gives away grants for areas of giving by the will of Doris Duke.
Is it charitable organization?
foundation.
Okay. Now, can you tell us what, if any, locations physically Doris Duke had?
New York, New Jersey, and Hawaii.
Okay. And were you assigned to one of those locations back in 2018?
My main office was in New Jersey, but I had to travel to New York and Hawaii offices.
Now, back in 2018, can you tell us approximately how long you'd worked for the Duke Foundation?
I started in 2001 and left in 2024.
Okay, so you no longer work there?
No.
Now, back in 2018, can you tell us what your title was with Doris Duke Foundation?
I was the Director of Information Systems.
Can you just briefly, for anyone who might not know, tell us what that means?
I was responsible for information technology, rendering technology services for all the sites, which is New York, New Jersey, Hawaii. And technology included everything: security, user computing, telecom, networking.
Now, as the Director of Information Systems at Doris Duke, who did you report to directly?
The Chief Operating Officer,
Okay, back in 2018, who was that?
Peter Simmons.
Okay. Now, I want to ask you, you said you were the director at that point in time, correct?
Yes.
How long have you been the director as of 2018?
2016, I was a director, and in 2020, I was promoted to the Chief Technology Officer.
Okay. So is it fair to say in 2016 you became the director?
Yes.
Who was the director prior to you?
Deborah Close.
Okay. Now, I want to ask you a little bit about the IT needs at the Duke Foundation. You familiar with those, I imagine?
Yes.
Okay. Now, did someone provide IT services to the Duke Foundation?
Yes, it was through a managed service provider. The company, all the companies you want me to name?
Let me just, I'll be more specific. Did the Doris Duke Foundation back in 2018 and prior to that have any relationship with a company called Square One?
Yes, they were our primary managed service provider.
Okay, when you say primary managed service provider, what did Square One do for Doris Duke?
Managed service provider was a key vendor, services rendered by this company that provided technology, services, and support to all the offices, to all the users at the foundation.
Okay. And do you know, as of, let's say, 2018, how long the Duke Foundation had a relationship with Square One?
I think the first contract was signed in 2003, perhaps. Yeah.
Now, is it fair to say for a substantial period of time?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, back back in November of 2018, was there a contract in place for those services between Square One and the Duke Foundation?
Yes.
Okay. Were you involved in the creation or the negotiation of that particular contract?
No, the director was then, Deborah Close.
Okay. So Ms. Close negotiated that contract?
Yes.
Were you an employee at the Duke Foundation while that was being negotiated?
Yes.
Okay. So as far as that contract was concerned, do you know who negotiated on behalf of Square One or no?
Yes.
And who was that?
Paul Caneiro?
Paul Caneiro, did he work for Square One?
Yes.
Now, as for Square One and your knowledge of Square One, did you know who the owners or the people who ran Square One, who they were?
Yeah.
Okay, and who were they?
Keith and Paul were primary working towards the contract.
Okay. Now, as far as Square One's day-to-day operations at Duke, who was actually responsible for that, let's say in 2018?
Well, we have three tech support guys on site, and a fourth one who went to the New York office once a week. And we also had a senior engineer who would be brought in for special projects. But they were all managed. Technology management was done through Paul.
Who's done through, I'm sorry?
Paul Caneiro.
Okay. Now, back in 2018, during that portion of that contract, were you dealing with Paul Caneiro?
When you say dealing, he was the senior guy from Square One who helped with technology support and services.
Now, that contract, the one that was in place in November of 2018, do you know when it began?
It was a 6-year contract, so it was signed in 2013, and we were still on a contract with them.
Okay. Permission to approach the witness?
John?
Basu, I'm just going to show you what's been marked as S17 for identification. Do you recognize what that is?
Yeah,
And what is it?
contract
A contract for what?
for a managed service provider through Square One.
Okay. So is that a contract between Square One and the Doris Duke Foundation?
Yes,
Okay. And again, does it indicate the inception date of that contract?
it is November 15th is when it was prepared.
Okay. Now, I just want to direct your attention to the end of that, page 5 of S17. Do you recognize that area?
Yeah,
And what is that?
it was signed by Ed Henry, who was then the CEO, and on the right, it was signed by Paul Caneiro, who was the lead person at Square One for all contracts.
Okay. And does it indicate with respect to Mr. Caneiro's, I guess there would be printed name, does it indicate a title?
It says VP here.
Okay. Now, the date again of those signatures is what?
Yeah, November 15th, 2013.
Okay. Now, you said this was a 6-year contract, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so 13 to 2019, is that accurate? Okay. Now, was there any provision within S17 wherein the contract could be canceled at any time?
Yeah, there was clause in there with penalties for the year if you did cancel the contract.
Okay, so if it was canceled after 2015, was there a penalty?
I'm sure it's in the contract,
Okay.
and there would say how much that would be, the amount.
Okay. Just going to direct your attention, have you read it to yourself. Page 3 of the contract. Do you see that?
Yeah,
And does it indicate certain years would have cancellation penalty?
yes.
And those 2 years would be which years?
This was the 5th year, the 2018. If we cancel, there would be no penalty for year 6, which would be 2019.
Okay.
No penalty.
Okay. So if the contract was canceled at the end of 2018, Duke would not have to pay any fee?
Right.
Okay. Now, I just want a last question with respect to this existing contract. Does the contract spell out the terms financially of what Duke was being charged for Square One services?
Yeah, it says what the annual cost would be, and then we would pay them monthly a fee of what's in this column.
Okay. And in 2018, is that one of the years that's on that chart?
Yes,
Okay. And in 2018, who was in charge of Duke's IT needs? Who was the
Paul.
director?
oh, it's Doris Duke, it was Deborah Close,
Okay. Had you taken over yet in 2018?
2018, yes.
Okay. Now, just specifically with respect to the year 2018, could you tell me what the total cost was to Doris Duke for the Square One contract?
It says here it was $1.4 million
Okay, and change, correct?
and change.
Okay. And does it indicate, you said it was paid monthly, does it indicate how much Doris Duke was paying to Square One a month?
For the contract, this was 123,000 to 123,220.
Okay.
That is the monthly, but this is for the contract, but they were used for all technology services, so there are others,
Okay.
other costs.
Explain that to me. I think what you just said is that Duke sometimes incurred other costs to Square One. Is that accurate?
Yeah, those would be business initiatives, technology initiatives for the business of the foundation. There would be projects, special projects, and Square One had skill sets to provide those individuals to run that project.
Right. So is it fair to say that Doris Duke spent money additional to that $123,000 a month on other IT needs?
Of course.
Okay. Now, with respect to the time frame of November 2018, were you looking, you being on behalf of Doris Duke, were you looking into other IT services potentially to replace Square One?
Yes.
Okay. Can you just tell me, just generally, what you were doing in that regard?
I was looking at other managed service providers where the goal was to provide and enhance the support, provide a 24/7 coverage, looking as to what would be the best price point for the foundation to deliver that business.
Was price important to you and Doris Duke?
Of course.
Now, in that time frame, November 2018, had you begun, potentially looking into other options?
Yes.
Okay. Now, the fact that you were potentially looking into other options, was that specifically communicated to the representatives of Square One, either Paul Caneiro or Keith Caneiro?
Not directly.
Okay. When you say not directly, explain that, please.
I had different companies, managed service providers, come on site and sit with me to, to understand their offerings. So they came to my office, and there were Square One tech support guys there. So it was very transparent.
Okay. So you didn't do anything to hide that?
No.
But you didn't specifically communicate that to Keith Caneiro or Paul Caneiro?
No, I didn't have to.
Understood. Now, with respect to the potential to renew the Square One contract, did you have any communications with any of the representatives from Square One, like the management, the owners?
No, but I did mention to Keith that the cost was too high and that I was looking to save some money because I think I think their cost was higher because I already knew from other vendors what they were proposing.
Okay. Putting costs aside for a second, just from your perspective, was Square One doing a good job with why you use them?
Yeah.
IT needs?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this was about cost to you, is that accurate?
For me, it's cost and improvement of services. I mentioned 24/7 because we had an office in Hawaii, and so we didn't have 24/7 coverage with Square One.
Let me ask you this, Ms. Basu. Was there a time when you met with Keith Caneiro about potentially, exercising that final year option?
Yes.
Okay. Do you recall approximately when that was?
Towards the end of the contract, like in 2018, I would say October, November, sometime.
Okay. Now, can you just explain, I don't want to know what anyone else said, but can you just explain to me and the juries, essentially what you were discussing at that meeting, just generally?
Well, my boss was there too, the Chief Operating Officer, Peter Simmons. Peter Simmons and I spoke to Keith to talk about that this contract was coming to an end. We had no penalty if we did not renew the contract in 2019, but we were familiar with their staff and we liked their services, but the cost was too high. So to keep the contract with Square One, what would it take them to reduce the cost and yet deliver the services that we were expecting from them?
Okay, in that meeting, obviously you were in that meeting, correct?
Yes.
And then you mentioned the CEO, right?
CEO, Chief
COO.
Operating
Okay. And that's who again?
Chief Operating Officer Peter Simmons,
Okay. And then who else was in the room in the meeting?
Keith
Keith Caneiro.
Caneiro.
Now, at some point in time after that meeting happened, did Keith Caneiro or anyone from Square One, did they follow up with respect to potential proposals being offered to Duke?
Yeah,
Okay.
Keith sent information via email.
Sorry, how did he send that information?
Via email?
Okay. Do you recall receiving that email and evaluating what was attached to it?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to approach you and show you what's been marked as S18 for identification. Ask you if you recognize that mail.
Yeah.
Okay, and what is that?
This was an email from Keith to me with a copy to Peter about what the options would look like. And he provided the three options for the contract.
And generally speaking, what were those three options?
Like with reduced cost, and also what would the penalty be if we just did not keep the contract for multiple years, and the option to kind of get out of the contract.
Okay. How many proposals did he send you?
3.
Okay, 3. Were all 3 proposals, were they different amounts of years?
Yeah,
Okay. Different types of cancellation penalties?
I don't remember the numbers, but I
That's okay. With respect to those contracts or those proposals, were they doing anything with respect to how many people would staff Duke during the contract?
Yeah, I remember the cost savings was reducing the number of support staff on site.
How many were there during the course of 2018?
3 on site.
Okay. And how many, if you recall, would be there if you accepted any of these proposals?
I think 2.
Just going to show you what's been marked as S19 for identification. S19 it's got an A, B, and a C. Okay?
Okay.
Now, do you recognize the first page of what's in front of you, S19?
Yeah,
And what is that?
it's a contract that you showed me prior, November 16th.
Okay. So fair to say, in preparation for your testimony, I showed that to you?
Sorry.
No, that's okay. But I think what you said is, prior to your testimony, did we meet in preparation for your testimony? Did we talk about your
Yeah.
testimony?
Yeah.
And did we discuss these proposals?
Yes,
But those proposals were something that you had actually received in 2018, correct?
yes.
Okay. Now, with respect to, I want to show you first, one of them has a tab. It would be S19A. Does that have the same cover page? It says the date.
Yeah.
What's the date?
November 16th, 2018.
Okay. And this proposal here, there's an overview portion, correct?
Yeah.
And does that talk about the changing of like staffing at Duke?
Yeah.
Okay. The first sentence, does it talk about changing the staff, the contracted staff amounts at Duke on a daily basis?
Yeah, it says contract to project hours. Yeah.
Okay. And does that discuss the reduction from 3 people to 2 people?
I think somewhere it says. Okay.
Just going to, I'm going to let you read it to yourself. I'm going to direct your attention to the
Yeah,
first sentence,
the
okay?
various
Just read it to yourself if you don't mind, ma'am.
This amendment
Just read-
revise, oh.
Just read it to yourself and then I'll ask you a question. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Having read that, does that refresh your recollection about any staffing changes or in number?
yes.
Okay, and what was going to happen?
So they were going to provide us 2 staff on site instead of 3
Okay,
with the reduced cost.
okay. So you mentioned a reduced cost.
Yes.
Does that page 2 of S19C, does it talk about the actual yearly cost and a monthly cost?
Yes.
Okay, and what would that be?
So the yearly cost would be 1.1 million, 1.133.6, and the monthly cost would be 94,466.
Okay. Now, 94,466, is that a reduction, I'm sorry if you may have said it, is that a reduction in cost as to what Duke was paying, let's say, in November of 2018?
Of course, it was over $1 million.
Okay, it went from, I think you said earlier, about 123,000 a month
Yeah,
to, what is it now?
94,466.67.
Now, if you turn to the back page, the last page of that, what's in front of you, S19C, does it have signature lines there? Taking you, it's page 4 of S19C. Is there a section entitled Acceptance and a place for signatures?
Yeah, nobody signed.
And nobody signed ever, correct?
No, nobody signed ever.
Now, I want to direct your attention to S19B, okay? Does it have the same date on it?
The November 16, 2018.
And is this one of the proposals that Keith Caneiro emailed you on November 16th, 2018?
Yes,
Okay. And does this, on page 2, talk about yearly costs and monthly costs?
yes.
And does this contract, how many years was it proposed to provide services to Duke?
This is a 2-year contract with 2 staff
Okay.
and
So
the cost.
2 staff, and then 2019, 2020.
Yes.
And what are the yearly costs proposed under 2019 and 2020?
Yearly cost for 2019 would be 1.133.6, and 2020 would be 1.170442. The
Okay.
yearly cost.
So, okay, approximately in 2019, 1.13 million?
Yes.
And then in 2020, approximately 1.17 million?
Yes.
Okay, and the monthly costs go from 94 in the first year, correct?
Yes.
To 97?
Yeah.
Okay. Was this proposal here, was it signed and executed?
No.
No?
No.
Never?
No. Never.
Just want to draw your attention to S19C. Is this the third of the proposals that Keith Caneiro sent you on November 16th, 2018?
Yep.
Mr. Decker, is it C or A? The one we're talking about now?
This one's C.
This one's C?
Yeah. Now, if I turn to page 2 of S19C, how many years was this proposal addressing?
4 years.
Okay. And does it lay out the yearly cost and the monthly cost?
Yes.
And does it also talk about 2 staff members as opposed to 3?
Yeah. 2
Okay.
staff.
And with respect to any cancellation policies, are they addressed on page 3?
Yes.
And is it a cancellation period for any of the years in the contract or just less than that?
No, less than that. It said in the year 2022, if this was a 4-year contract, we could get out of this contract by paying a penalty of $598,834.
Now, with respect to S19 and these 3 proposals that were sent to you by Keith Caneiro, were any of these ever executed and signed?
No.
Now, you said it earlier, but the existing contract, the first one I showed you, ran through 2019, the end of 2019, correct?
Yeah.
So, but Duke had the ability to cancel it at the end of 2018.
Yes.
Now, with respect to the fact that Mr. Keith Caneiro sent you proposals, was it discussed that that 2019 option on the existing contract was not going to be renewed?
We had talked that it may not be renewed. We would not renew because the cost was way too high.
And now, I just wanted to ask you just a couple more questions. I want to draw your attention back to approximately 4 days after you received that email from Keith Caneiro, November 20th, 2018. Was there a point in time where you learned about something that had happened to Keith Caneiro?
Yes.
And was that, did you learn that he had died?
Yes.
Okay. Now, for purposes of the relationship between Square One and Doris Duke, even if that existing contract was going to be canceled or not renewed, did Square One still provide services for the period of December 2018?
Yes.
Okay, and then what happened to the relationship between Doris Duke and Square One at the end of 2018?
We had to get a new MSP, and so the contract was signed with a new MSP on for 2019, an annual contract.
Did you ever have the opportunity after or between November 16th of 2018 and November 20th of 2018 to kind of give Keith Caneiro an answer as to his proposals?
No.
You didn't have that opportunity? Your Honor, I have no further questions.
Okay. Ross?
Thank you, Judge. Ms. Basu, good morning. So, okay, to understand this, you started with Duke in 2001. And what was your title back then?
I was hired as a network engineer and then into operations manager.
Okay. And you started overseeing Square One in 2016?
Yes.
Okay. So, what was your title at that point?
I was a director of information systems from January of 2016, but the prior director left May of 2015, so I didn't have the title, but I did manage the IT department from the time Deborah Close left.
Okay.
So it was part of 2015.
So, 2015 into 16.
Yeah.
Square One had been providing services to Duke since 2003. And that was under an original contract, right, that they had with Doris Duke, right? You didn't
Hold on
participate.
for 1 second. Ma'am, you have to say yes or no.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes.
That's okay. I understand.
Yes.
Now, you didn't participate directly in the original contract with Square One.
No.
But you know that Paul and Keith were involved with Square One's business with Duke since the beginning, right?
Yes, but Keith was not on site so much as Paul.
And in 2013, when Square One renewed its contract with Duke, there was a different director, the director that you mentioned previously, right? And she's the one that negotiated the 2013 contract between Duke and Square One.
Yes.
And she did those negotiations with Paul,
Yes.
right? Now, you weren't a part of those negotiations, but I take it that since Square One had been involved with Duke since 2003, and Duke in 2013 was willing to sign a 6-year contract extending their relationship with Square One, I'd imagine that Duke was pretty satisfied with the services they were getting from Square One. Is it fair to say?
Yeah.
And when you come on to oversee the Square One relationship in 2016, you continued to work directly with Paul.
Yeah, Paul and others. There was no change.
There was a person by the name of Robert Block, right?
Yes.
And he was an employee of Square One. And he was on site at Duke in New Jersey, right?
As needed.
And you found him to be a reliable person, right?
Yes.
And you found that you could depend on him for services, right?
Yes.
And you mentioned before when the prosecutor was talking to you during this time period, you had no issues with the services you were getting from Square One.
No issues.
The one thing that you mentioned was cost, right? The existing contract you had with Square One, you thought was a little too expensive, right?
Yes.
But that was kind of the purpose of these contract proposals that had been provided to you by Square One, right?
But yeah, Debbie is the first director who ever signed a contract for 6 years. Nobody ever has an extended contract that would go for 6 years. I'm sure, you're happy with the services and you sign it. And she did it.
Right. Now 2018 comes and you're in a position to renegotiate, right?
Yes.
I mean, you may be able to save some money by renegotiating a lower price with Square One,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And that's exactly what was happening, right? You had a meeting in New York City with Keith and the chief operating officer of Duke,
Yeah.
and what you were talking about was the possibility of Duke and Square One continuing your relationship, right?
We said we wanted a revised contract with the price with an extended service because I told you that we didn't have 24/7. So improved services with less cost. And that was addressed at that meeting.
Okay. So that meeting took place on November 13th of 2018.
Yeah.
And then several days after that, Keith is going to forward you those contract proposals that you were just shown, right? And obviously, in those proposals, Keith is offering a 1-year extension, a 2-year extension, or a 4-year extension, right?
Yeah.
And the 4-year extension has an option within it to renew for an additional 2 years, right?
Yeah, with the penalty to cancel. That's the 4-year one.
Right. But in that proposal, the maximum amount of time within that contract that Square One and Duke might be in this business relationship was 6 years, right?
How did you get the 6?
Well, it's a 4-year, there's a 4-year contract, right? With an option to continue for 2 years.
We're talking about S19C?
Yes.
Is that what you're talking about? Okay.
It was a 4-year option. 4-year
Right.
option.
The 4-year
Yeah.
option.
So we
Yes.
were talking about the maximum period the contract would be good for is 4 years with a clause to exit with a cancellation. The number that's given in there.
So, Keith sent you these, right? And you said that you never had an opportunity to give him a response on the contract renewal, right?
We never wrote up anything officially to say we accept or we don't accept. We never got that opportunity.
And at the meeting on November 13th of 2018,
Yeah.
you didn't say yes to renewing a contract with Square One, but you didn't say no either.
We didn't say yes, we did not say no.
And when you say we, it wasn't just you that didn't say yes or no, it was also the chief operating officer that hadn't said yes or no, right?
Correct, yeah. Yes.
So, just to go back to what you were saying about Paul before, in terms of being on site for Duke. When you say he was on site, what location are we talking about?
New Jersey primarily, because that's where the IT department was. We did service the other two, New York and Hawaii, but our main location for IT was Hillsborough, New Jersey.
Okay. And that was your main location
Yes.
because that was where most of your servers and equipment were located?
We had equipment everywhere. This had the most presence by size. Number of users were also larger than the other two sites.
Okay. And you were mainly based in the Hillsborough location, is that
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
All right, so how often would you be at Hillsborough versus, say, being in New York?
My everyday work was in Hillsborough unless it required my presence for meetings or projects to be in New York.
Okay. So this is all I meant before. Can I approach Judge? I'm sorry.
Sure, no problem. Just identify the exhibit.
I believe this is 19C.
Okay.
So this is what I was saying before. This is 19C. That's the 4-year renewal contract. And then it said there's an option to extend for an additional 2 years, which would take it to 2024.
Oh, so you're calculating from 19 through 24.
I
And
was,
That's why
yeah.
you were saying 6, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Understood, yes.
So I mean, a minor point, but
Okay.
what I'm saying is, in this contract, Keith is offering to extend services to Square One to Doris Duke through 2024, right?
Yeah.
And obviously is expressing a willingness to be contractually obligated to provide those services for another 6 years, right?
Okay, yeah.
You said before that Keith was not really an on-site person at Duke, but you obviously had his phone number, right? You had Keith's phone number.
Yeah,
You had his email address.
yes,
You guys would communicate via email.
yes,
You would communicate via text message, right?
yes,
Obviously, if there were any issues with the services, you could tell Paul, or you could tell Keith, right?
yes,
Or you could tell Robert Block,
yes,
the IT engineer, right?
yes,
And you knew that he would make sure to get that information back to Keith and Paul. Is that right?
yes.
Okay. Just a moment, Judge.
Sure.
So, the contract options that the prosecutor and I talked about with you today, the ones that were the proposals for the potential renegotiation of 2018, for the 2018 contract, right?
You have to say yes or no.
Oh,
It wasn't not a great question, so let me try again. When those were submitted to you by Keith. You testified that they did have a reduction in cost for Doris Duke, right?
Yes.
So they did accomplish that, right?
Yes, with a clause. I just got 3 engineers who would be on site, they took it down.
I'm right. So I'm going to get there with you right now. So it accomplishes the lowering of cost, but that there's going to be less on-site people per this
Yes.
contract, right?
Yes.
Now, obviously, these contracts vary in terms of the monthly cost to Duke if they were to execute them. But in terms of, let's say, 19C, which you were shown, the annual cost in 2019 for that contract, for example, I'll approach again, Judge, would have been right around, yeah, for 2019 would have
For
been
2019, the monthly cost would be reduced to 99 than what we were paying in the original contract. But when we look at these numbers, we were going to get less support because instead of 3 engineers, we would be down to 2 engineers.
right, right. But the annual cost to Duke would have been $1.2 million.
Yeah,
Correct.
1.197, yes.
And under the 2013 contract, you were paying a little over $1.5 million.
But there were 3 engineers versus 2. We're taking a full-time person out.
Okay, and so there was never, obviously, after the 13th, when you had the meeting, and after the 16th, when Keith provided those proposals to you, you didn't have further negotiations with Keith after that. Is that
We
fair to say?
never had a chance.
Right. Okay. I have nothing further. Thank you.
Redirect.
Just one question. Had you had an opportunity to engage in further negotiation, what would have been your position on behalf of Duke with Keith Caneiro?
I
I
don't,
object to speculation because we don't know what those negotiations would have been. So it's a hypothetical.
It's actually not, because here we already know what was proposed. Mr. Decker's only asking what her response was going to be, so it's not speculation. We don't know what Keith's response would have been to her, but we do know that if you have an answer to that, you can tell us. So that's overruled.
yeah, we already had, like I was doing the homework, what was the business practice in a private foundation and to support what would vendors cost. So I'd done the homework and it was way, way lower than what Square One, what we were paying. And if you want the amount, that's also there with Doris Duke, the cost. So it was half of what we really paid Square One. The new vendor came in with that amount.
Okay.
Just with respect to the way you answered that, I guess I just wanted to ask you a question. I may have asked it originally. You weren't unhappy in 2018 and before with the services of Square One, though, correct?
Yeah, not being happy is never on the, I was always good with the services
You
they
wanted-
provided. The cost just did not, it just didn't substantiate with the service versus the cost.
Nothing further.
Recross, if any.
When you're saying that somebody came in for half the cost,
The
Just to-
contract was signed.
that was the
within-
new managed service provider.
Yes,
But you didn't sign that contract until April 20th of 2019. Isn't that what you just said when you were testifying on direct?
April of 2019, no, this vendor came in after Square One's business was resolved, the new vendor came the following year. You're talking about a new MSP?
Maybe I misunderstood you. I thought you were testifying when Mr. Decker was first asking you questions. He asked you what happened when the Square One contract terminated in December of 2018. And I thought I heard you say a new MSP came in
Yes.
in April.
Yeah, I didn't say April. Why would it be April if there's no business after December? We had to bring in somebody to take over the services for the foundation. And we had to bring in the service in the beginning of the year because Square One engineers were still working and helping the information being transferred to the new MSP. So the engineers were on site end of 2018 helping information being transferred to the new vendor.
So, the point being though, that after Keith sent you the proposals, there was never any further contact between you and he.
Right.
And so, whatever happened in terms of negotiations with the new MSP, there was no ability for Square One to further participate in those negotiations.
Right.
Fair to say?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Ma'am, you can sit down. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Just watch your step when you're coming down.